in because this is going to be for Ready to Love. This is going to be for the reunion. And boy, what a reunion. What a reunion. And this is only part one. Part one. What a part one reunion. I'm going to tell you right now, last week on the finale, when I had bet that Morgan was going to exact her revenge on Tony, I won big. I won big money in Vegas. But let me tell you, this week I would have lost it all. I would have lost every bit of money I bet. Because first of all, the first thing I saw Cynthia and Anthony sitting on the couch, and they was miles apart. It was like Cynthia was in Miami and Anthony was way up in Fort Lauderdale. I was like, what the heck is going on? Why ain't they booed up? Why ain't they hugged up? First of all, I was sad just to see that. I sure hope they're playing a game on us, because they've been playing games with us with Cynthia and Anthony all season, making us think one thing, but then it's another thing. I really hope this is a game, but my little spidey senses, I'm getting nervous, y'all. I'm getting nervous that it might be a wrap for these two, and I didn't like that. So first off, I was sad when I saw that. Then next thing I knew, I see a Mark Anthony and Mercedes booed up, hugged up. They barely could keep their hands off each other. I mean, my goodness, of all the people on the show, they was booed up the most. I mean, she's sitting in his lap. He rubbing on her thigh. They giving each other googly eyes. I said, well, I guess Mark Anthony getting flued in. Mark Anthony using them buddy passes from Mercedes, and shoot, he's getting flued in, because everybody kept telling me that Mercedes was moving out of Miami and she was going to be going to pilot school. Mark Anthony was saying he was going back to New York. And thank you to my subscriber, El Ramy, that made me look at the mid-roll clip. And Mark Anthony was talking about he's used to dating flight attendants. So this must be his little pattern. He loved dating these flight attendants so he can get a flued in. But I was like, what is going on there? But you know what? Good for them. Because you know what? I'm the type of person, with all my girlfriends, no matter who it is, maybe in the beginning, if somebody says, hey, do you like so-and-so for me? I'll be the person that give you my honest advice. But once you make your decision, once you say, nope, I'm choosing him, I want her, whatever else, I'm the person that just gets behind you and supports you. You're not going to find me in the background, talking behind your neck, behind your back, saying, I don't know why she with him. What I turn to the person, well, you know what? Let me do whatever I need to do to support you guys. So even if I thought you weren't a good fit, doesn't matter. Let me pray you through it. Let me uplift you through it. Let me encourage you through it. So with Mark Anthony and Mercedes all booed up, you know what? Here's to Mark Anthony and Mercedes. I'm happy for you, because I'm happy when other people are happy. What makes you happy makes me happy, and they looked happy. So, you know what? Good for them. I hope whatever they get out of it, they want out of it, because we know it's unconventional, because that's all they ever talk about. Oh, well, me and Mark Anthony, we're sort of unconventional. I'm telling you, that soothsayer that showed up on this show, y'all need to find her. Y'all need to look her up, and y'all need to invite her to some of your next parties, because she has predicted all this stuff. Everything on here, she predicted it. Mercedes about to come up pregnant, because she told Mercedes that she saw a baby. And we were like, well, it can't be no baby, because she and Mark Anthony ain't going to even be together. That's what I was thinking. Ain't going to be no baby. She ain't going to be with Mark Anthony. But now that we see them booed up, I hope Mercedes is using her IUD, her birth control. I hope he's strapping on something. I don't know, plan B. I don't know what it's going to be for Mercedes. But Mercedes has a baby coming up. That's what that soothsayer said. Because she also said, Mercedes, you like unconventional relationships. Have you ever been in sort of like a love triangle? And Mercedes said, yeah. And at the time, I was thinking, was it a willing love triangle? Because she didn't look angry about it. I said, or is that her unconventional relationships? The Mercedes is okay being in so-called unconventional relationships. I don't know. And that's one of the things that Mark Anthony kept saying is, me and Mercedes are on the same page. We believe in unconventional relationships. So they have worked out some sort of agreement. Maybe we booed up when I fly you out here, get flued out. And then when you're away, you can date whoever, I can date whoever, and we just gonna keep it light. We're gonna keep it casual because neither one of us really want to be married. We just want to have a good time. We want to go on vacations together because they like to travel. I got free flight benefits, so you can come along, Mark Anthony, and get flued in. I mean, that's the truth though. When people have flight benefits or they like to travel, one of the hardest things to do is to find other people who want to just get up and go and travel with you. That's one of the reasons why I like my husband, because that is something we share in common. And that is, we both were always itching for a vacation. But I know a lot of couples where one of the couples loves to travel and the other couple barely wants to leave the city limits. So a good for Mark Anthony and good for Mercedes. I'm here for it. I guess we're going to have to hear the whole story because they haven't been confronted on it yet or talked about. So I guess when we hear about the whole Cynthia and Andre story, we're going to also hear about the Mercedes and Mark Anthony story. And then, Lordy, we found out that the woman that Blue has been dating is a Kayla. Well, I don't know. I would have lost all my money because I did pick Kayla in my final two. I picked her in my final two. I picked her and Trinica because I just did it through process of elimination. I don't know if y'all saw that video. I did it through the process of elimination, and I came up with Kayla and I came up with Trinica. And the one thing I remember about Kayla was that Kayla liked older men. And Kayla didn't mind being a little bit more assertive and chasing a man. But poor Kayla. This girl can't win. This girl can't win. Come to find out, because I was watching Kamisha reviews. Kamisha reviews, for me, she busted the story open, that Blue is in jail. Blue is in jail for PPP, a loan fraud. Can you believe it, people? It really is funny, too. Because I've been doing these series on no romance without finance. I've been doing these for Ready to Love, Married at First Sight. Basically what I do is I take some of the situations happening with the couples, but I really just talk about the money parts, not the love part, not the emotional part, just the money part. And on my agenda to do this weekend was to do a video on hooking up with an entrepreneur and the things you need to worry about when you date or marry an entrepreneur, because it's different than dating a person who has a regular job, a W-2 job. Is completely different. And I was going to do a series on it. And here we go. And one of the things I was going to talk about is a lot of people talk about they have companies, they're entrepreneurs, but a lot of them ain't making no money. A lot of them ain't making no money. And I was going to talk about this. And I was going to mention the different entrepreneurs from the different seasons. So you guys got to watch this series I've been doing. I'm going to do this video this week. But now I'm going to talk about Blue, because we come to find out Blue was over here frauding the government and frauding all us taxpayers. He's over here using, allegedly, let me say allegedly. I don't even know if it's alleged anymore. I think he is in jail, but I'm going to say alleged because I don't want nobody suing me. But allegedly, he was using a PPP money to fund his lifestyle, pay for cars, pay for personal stuff. And this is the man that Kayla ended up hooking with. Oh, poor Kayla. She can't win. She had a whole bad season, the first season of Miami, when she was tied up with Mike. And then she was tied up with lazy ass Randall. Then she says, well, I'm going to get ahead of the curve and I'm going to date this man over here in season 2. And to come to find out, he's a fraudster, a crook. It's always the quiet ones, right? Blue was the quiet one on the show. He ends up being a whole mess. We're going to talk about him some more too. He ends up being a crook and a whole mess. Go figure. The light-skinned man with the light eyes is the one you got to watch out for. Lordy have mercy. Mark Anthony was like, is Kayla just on here for some shine? Is she just on here for some camera time? Well, if she was on here for camera time, her time is up on Ready to Love. But you know what? She can get a spot on Life After Lockup. What's it? Love After Lockup? She can get a spot on Love After Lockup. She got a paid gig coming to her. I think the little article that Kamisha Reviews had, I think he's getting 2 years. So in about 2 years, we can see Kayla back on the screen. Love After Lockup. She can have a whole reality TV show visiting Blue in prison. I think it's going to be federal prison, right? That's a white collar crime. And then they can have a whole reality show on that, because Kayla's good reality TV. There's a couple of good people that have come out of this season, 2 seasons of Miami. I'm telling you, they make for good reality TV. Last season, it was Kayla and it was Kadian. Kadian makes for good reality TV. Even Sharice made for good reality TV. Kayla makes for good reality TV. And this season, you know who the reality TV queens were. It was Morgan and Jeffri, because these two, I'm telling you, they helped carry this show. This season actually had a lot of stars. I think it's one of my favorite seasons. They had a lot of interesting people, from crazy ass Morgan, and she is bona fide crazy. From crazy Morgan to delusional Jeffri, to funny ass Lyndon, to Tony the Tiger. I'm telling you, this season has been memorable for me. It really has been memorable. I can't even wait for all the other after interviews that we're going to start seeing on all these people now. They're probably going to start rolling them out on all the different YouTube channels. So I will definitely be bringing you the after interviews. I know I'm behind. I had to go get my little hair crochet braided. So I didn't get to do Love is Blind. I'm going to do that this weekend. I see that Lyndon did an interview with Crystal XO. I'm going to do a recap on that. And I'm definitely going to do my No Romance Without Finance. I'm going to try to get him in this weekend, unless my husband complains, because he'll start complaining to me and say, all you doing is videos. Then I got to put it down, people. I got to put it down before I have too much turmoil in the house. But I'm going to try to get him out before he starts barking at me. And then, so be sure to look for those videos tomorrow, for sure, tomorrow. Today or tomorrow. I'm going to try to work on them. But what else happened in this show? We got to work on Jeffri. Can we call her Jeffri? Can we call this woman who showed up with this whole other voice? Can we still call her Jeffri? She needs another name. It can't be Jeffri. We're going to have to give her another name with the white on and the blonde wig. Maybe we can call her Blondie or something. I don't know. But this whole new girl is from the Deep South, because that Southern twang that came out on Jeffri, that deep, a little bit more bass in the voice, and that Southern twang said, don't be playing with me. I was like, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this woman? I mean, if they were doing a video and they didn't show us the face, but all they did was the voices, I probably couldn't even recognize Jeffri's voice. I wouldn't even put the voice to Jeffri. What the heck was that? I'm telling you, I knew that Jeffri was faking all season. I knew she was faking all season, but who knew what it would take to come out? But let me tell you, I would have won money on Jeffri. I lost money on all these other people I talked about, but Jeffri, I would have won some money, because I knew she was fake and phony. I knew she wouldn't keep it up. I knew that this would fall apart. Because let me tell you, it's hard to keep up a lie all the time, 24/7, a day after day after day after day. And it looks like the whole lie fell apart. I know it's going to be a big debate on whether or not this was a whole setup by Andre, and was he just looking for a moment. That's what Jeffri is saying. But in the look behind the scenes, you heard Andre tell Mark Anthony that Jeffri is lying. That ain't no new news. Jeffri lying, shoot, that's like me drinking coffee in the morning every day, all day. I got 2 cups a day of coffee every day, all day. Jeffri gonna lie all day, every day. So that's not no big surprise. But he said Jeffri lied because Jeffri was the one that stopped reaching out to him. And you know what? If I have to pick who's the more of the liar, I'm going to pick it's Jeffri. I'm going to pick Jeffri is the more of the liar, because what Andre said when he said to Mark Anthony, Jeffri's the liar. She's the one that stopped reaching out to me first. And then that's what made him fall back. And now he's coming and he's talking about the baby mama the baby daddy situation. But what really made him fall back was what? Because Jeffri stopped reaching out to him so much. And I believe it, because it's the same thing he did to Mercedes. Andre needs a lot of attention. And everybody knows the level of tension that Andre needed, Jeffri wasn't going to be able to keep up with it, because Jeffri's a lie. You see, when Andre was on this show, he had several women calling him, giving him attention. He had Cynthia calling him, talking to him. He had anybody else that might have been in it. He had Jeffri, of course. So all along, he had lots of people giving him attention. He was fat and happy. Attention. And then Jeffri didn't have to carry all the load, because he had other people doing it as well. Cynthia was over there pinch hitting. Well, after the season was over, now all of a sudden, ain't nobody calling Andre no more. What for? It's over. We done picked, we done chose. Why we got to call you every day, Andre? And Andre's sitting over here talking about why my phone ain't blowing up. Why isn't Jeffri now making up for all these other women? Why isn't Jeffri calling me 10 times a day talking about how I'm her biblical husband and how I'm so wonderful? She should have got a doll or something. She should have programmed in her phone. She should have got some GPT, whatever it's called, AI, artificial intelligence, and put that shit on automatic speed dial so it called Andre every 10 minutes, because that's what he was going to need. He's going to need to be gassed up and hyped up every 10 minutes. And Jeffri was like, I was faking it the whole season. I can't keep up with this. I can't keep up with this charade, this facade. Not only can I not keep up this fake accent, non-accent in this baby voice, I can't keep up calling you all the time. So it fell apart. It fell apart. But Jeffri fought Andre like Jeffri knows how to fight. One thing I said about Jeffri is Jeffri's a professional. Jeffri is a professional fighter. She is a professional fighter. And I'm going to tell you, I learned a few tricks from Jeffri. And every woman out here this season, every woman out here should have learned a few tricks of Jeffri. You don't want to become Jeffri. It's almost like, you want to maybe want to drink and get a little buzzed, but you don't want to become the alcoholic. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So with Jeffri, you want to learn just enough that you can become a little bit buzzed and have a good time. Just make yourself feel a little good and get into the party. But what you don't want to become is drink too much of the Jeffri juice that you get drunk on the Jeffri game plan, because then you'll be like Jeffri. But let me tell you everything a woman could learn about Jeffri. Because I can't learn, the one part about Jeffri learned was how to lure in a man. I can't learn that because I already got a man and got a husband. But for all you single women out there, don't forget about the baby voice. Don't do that. Forget about the lying and making up stories about your life. Don't do that. But the part that she has down pat is making a man feel like he is a star. Now, you don't want to fake it so much that you can't keep it up in the long run. But there's a lot of women who could do a lot more of it. Like where you are and where Jeffri is probably a big space in between. Jeffri says y'all can up your game just a little bit. If you really want to catch more bees, you catch bees with honey. That's what Jeffri taught. You catch bees with honey and not with vinegar. So all this man, that don't catch no bees. You catch bees with honey. And then as Jeffri says, I had the pick of all the men on the show. And then you'll have more men to pick from. Then you're going to have to learn how to pick better. You're going to have to learn to pick better, because that's the problem with Jeffri. Jeffri don't know how to pick men. See, Jeffri's good at luring the men in. The bees to the honey. But where she falls bad on is she don't know how to pick men. That's her biggest problem. She knows how to lure them in, but she don't know how to pick them. And when she was getting into this little spat with Andre, and Andre was bringing up, well, what's the problem? The fact that you have two baby daddies and none of them come around. There's two things I want to talk about in that scenario. Two parts of that. The first part is Jeffri is a professional fighter, and Jeffri flipped that whole conversation to not be about her bad picking skills, but to make it become an indictment on black men who leave their kids. I said, what the hell? Are we talking? We've gone to talking about Jeffri and her poor skills on choosing men, and or even her poor skills on choosing, but also maybe what her problem is in relationships, to now talking about an indictment on black men in the U.S. or I don't know, are we talking about the U.S. or are we talking about around the world? Are we talking about black men around the world? Are we talking about a global issue? Have Jeffri been able to shift the conversation from her and her particular situation with her two baby daddies to now make this an indictment on all black men? Did you see how Jeffri was able to get the conversation off of her and to get the conversation on all black men? Then once she got the conversation on all black men, she was able to bring in women that came to her defense. Z came to her defense. Morgan came to her defense, right? So now she was able to get help with her situation from other women. It's the same way she used Morgan in the beginning of the season, how she got Morgan to attack Blake. Because what Jeffri's able to do is Jeffri's able to take a scenario from her and make it a global issue. So what she says, it's not about me, it's about you. So Jeffri made her situation, not being able to foster a good relationship between her children and her baby daddies, and she made that all about black men, period. It ain't about me as a woman, a mother, the ability to bridge differences enough that the fathers feel invited enough to come around, or whatever the problem is with the fathers. There's lots of mothers who go above and beyond, do things just so their kids can have a relationship with their father. Women do it all the time. The men are assholes. Maybe they don't want to be around, but they do extra things because they want their fathers to be around. Jeffri has now absolved herself from all that and says the problem isn't me, the problem is black men, because y'all leave your kids all the time. Then you had women coming to the defense of Jeffri, and you had men fighting Jeffri and men basically fighting other women. And Jeffri gets to sit back over here in the corner, and now none of the conversation is about her. She is a professional fighter. And I said this from the very beginning, she's a professional. So if you're the person out here that doesn't know how to fight and you always get taken in arguments, take some tips from Jeffri. Take some tips from Jeffri in that when you feel attacked and someone's always telling you what you do wrong, Jeffri is the queen of the flip. Queen of the flip. You don't want to do it all the time because that's when you become narcissistic, which Jeffri, I believe, is a little bit narcissistic. That's when you become a narcissistic. But there may be a few tips you can get. Just like there's some tips you can get from her on how to lure in men. Honey attracts more bees. But the difference you need to do is you need to learn how to pick men. Once you lure men, you got to learn how to pick and choose the right man. And what Jeffri chose, she chose Andre because she wanted some of that Forbes money. That's exactly what she wanted. But she isn't able to sustain and do exactly what Andre needed. And that was a lot of attention. Because Andre was saying, I'm not leaving you just because you had kids. Every woman I dated had kids. He said, I'm leaving you because you promised me one thing, to lure me in and coddle me and stroke me, and you stopped doing it. That's what he said. You did all this to get me, and then you aren't keeping it up. I know they smashed. I know Andre and Jeffri smashed. I believe it. I believe it 100%. I believe it 100%. And Andre did what Andre does. And that is, it was lust. It was lust. Just like that soothsayer said. I told you this soothsayer was on the money for a lot of people. On the money for a lot of people. And she told Jeffri to her face, yeah, there are men interested in you, but it's all lust. And Jeffri sat up there with that soothsayer, that fortune teller, that tarot card reader, and said, that's not true because all of them ask about my kids and they're very interested in my children. She didn't want to believe that soothsayer, but she was right, which makes me think back over to the soothsayer thing with Cynthia. When the tarot card reader read Cynthia, one of the things she said to Cynthia was, you're getting better, you're healing, and in the end, you're going to choose yourself. I really hope there isn't a scenario with Cynthia and Anthony where Cynthia is less than pleased with Anthony's follow through and she decides to choose herself. Wow. I'm telling you, in part 2, if we hear a scenario between Anthony and Cynthia, and the reason why they're not together, if they're not together, is because that Cynthia has a gripe in saying that some of the things she felt was going to happen with Anthony didn't happen, and she decided to choose herself. I'm going to have to fly down to Florida and visit that doggone soothsayer and that doggone fortune teller. I don't care how much she costs per hour. I'm paying it because she would have predicted the outcomes on darn near all of these couples, all of them. Shoot, we might begin the baby shower invitation from Miss Mercedes pretty soon, because this soothsayer, she might have been on the money for a lot of these people. And another area where I would have lost all my money is on Sue Ann and Blake. Sue Ann and Blake, I would have lost all my money. I always said, what I was saying was that Sue Ann was not Blake's type. He wouldn't have picked her. He wouldn't have chosen her. He don't want you. I was saying all of it. I was saying it all. I didn't believe that Blake really wanted. And in fact, people were saying, but Blake is playing games. You know, he's doing this to women. I wouldn't have been the only one over there in the L comment. I know I wasn't over there by myself, but I was definitely in the L comment column. I would have lost all my money because I would not have predicted that these two would be together. And I wouldn't have predicted that they would be booed up to the point where she's even got clothes over his house and they really trying to make a go at it. I would not have predicted it. I was wrong. Sorry, Suanne. Sorry, Blake. I was wrong. But just like I said with Mark Anthony and Mercedes, once I know you guys have chosen each other and it's real, I'm behind you. I'm behind you 100%. And now I'm going to start looking for the good parts in them. And the one thing that I can say about Blake and Suanne, where I could see where they could be a good couple, is that they actually are pretty both straightforward. Pretty straightforward. And maybe that sort of directness, her being an attorney and being direct, maybe that combines well with Blake. The other part about we learned about Suanne in her exit interview that she had with, I think she had hers with Simone. That was the one I watched. Suanne, even though she's a strong, a confident leader, she does like the more submissive role at home. She was married. She played that role in her marriage. So I could see her playing that role with Blake. So I was like, okay, I learned a little bit more there. I think they're more more analytical. They're not all full of emotion, which I think could work well with them there. I could see them both not wanting a lot of drama. I don't think Blake wants a lot of drama because I think he's had a lot of women in the past that were drama. And I think maybe now not having that is good in his life. So maybe this is the situation of a couple whereby they would have never dated each other in their 20s. Never. Maybe that's what I should have said. I should have said that these two would have never hooked up with each other when they were in their 20s or maybe even in their early 30s. But now they're at a more mature level where you evaluate men differently and people differently. I can say that. I can say that about my own marriage. I always tell my husband, I wouldn't have dated you in my 20s. I really wouldn't have. I wouldn't have married you. Hell, yes, you wouldn't. No, but the truth is I really wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been with the type of husband my husband is because I was a different person then. So maybe what I should have said is that the reason why I didn't see Suanne with Blake is because I don't think this type of woman he normally dated. But what Blake has done is he's grown, he's evolved, and he looks at different things in a woman. And I do believe that Suanne has all those things that Blake would want in a woman because I think she's a wonderful and fantastic person. I just didn't think he was ready for a type of woman like Suanne, the type of seriousness and groundedness that she brings to a relationship. I didn't know if he would value that. But now I'm starting to realize that maybe he does value it because he's had so much of the other mess. He doesn't want to do that anymore. So I'm 100% behind them. I'm happy for them. I should have had another clue because they both have these YouTube channels. I don't know if you guys know that. Blake has a YouTube channel. At least he told me he was going to start one. Not told me, but told us. He was going to start a conversation with men. Suanne has a station that she does where she has conversations. So they're kind of doing both the same thing. They like to have conversations, like to have talk about relationships and stuff. So, hey, there you go. So I'm 100% behind them. I'm going to root for them. I'm going to send them good vibes and everything, all on them because that's what I like to do. Once you decided you've chosen each other, as long as I don't see any real toxic behavior, I'm like, shoot, I'm all for it. I don't mind being wrong when the outcome is something better than what I predicted. And I predicted something worse than what we saw on the screen. And what's on the screen is something better. I'm all here for it. Bravo. I love it. But you know what? Where I really would have won some money on was I would have run some money on Morgan and Anthony because I knew they so toxic. I think I said it in my exit interview with Tony. I said they really don't even need to be friends. They need to stay away from each other because the chemistry and the allure of them for each other is so strong. They won't be able to be in the room and resist each other. I told you Morgan is an addict. Morgan is an addict. She's just like, a friend in recovery, an alcoholic. If you got a friend in recovery, an alcoholic, you're not going to invite them to a bar. You're not going to invite them to hang out with you and drink because they can't resist it. Morgan, even after her big moment, her big takedown, she got her vengeance on Tony on national TV. She couldn't stay away. She's addicted to it. She couldn't stay away. It's like she just loves the toxicity, so she can go there and then she can have a round two of the vengeance. Because what the vengeance that she let loose again on this screen after Tony hurt her again, because you know she went back over there with Tony that tiger, and then he hurt her again, just like she was saying, you should have been talking to me before when I was trying to talk to you. He hurt her again, because that's what tigers do. Tigers kill. She keeps trying to make Tony the tiger a cub, but she keeps doing it because in the end, she wants to be right back where she is today, coming out here with another more vindictive words and mean words. And let me tell you, this time on this reunion, it was worse than it was during the regular season. Even Mark Anthony got that heat. She told Mark Anthony, shut your ass up and stay over there. Morgan said, you can get it, Mark Anthony. You can get it if you want to. You better not get in the middle of these two tigers going at it. You gonna get bit and destroyed. Shut your ass up and stay over there. I said, a good Lord. And then she called Tony a monster. Tony needs counseling. She and Jeffri over here clapping behind the scenes, talking about, yeah, people need counseling. What the heck are Jeffri and Morgan clapping about people needing counseling when they the ones that need a 2-for-1 plan? They need a whole 3-4 years worth of counseling, and they over here clapping because somebody else needs counseling. I tell you, they good for TV though. They are good for TV. She said, Tony is a monster. You don't know the type of man he is. You don't know what he does. You don't know the two personality. He's one man here. He's one man there. Here's the problem, Morgan. We believe all this. We believe all of it. Let's say we believe all of it. We do, we don't matter. My question is, if you know all this about him, if you know he's a monster, if you know he's Tony the Tiger, if you know he's all these things, why the heck are you still getting in the cage with him? Why are you still ignoring all the red flags? She's over here complaining about Tony and what Tony is, but she's really making herself look bad and saying more about herself. Why can't you resist it? Why can't you walk away? She's putting him down, but she's putting herself down in the meantime because you're choosing him. He's all these things. He's a monster. He's got two personalities. He's this, he's that. But yet you continue to choose him over and over and over again. It's pretty clear that Tony was sleeping with Natasha and Morgan at the same time. It's pretty clear that he was doing them both at the same time. We've had lots of clues, even on the exit interview with Tony. They asked him, had you and Morgan been intimate? And he said, I don't want to answer that question. Well, not answering is the answer. And Morgan alluded to it when she said, you put me in danger, because they probably raw dogged it. They raw dogged it. They used no protection. They used no protection at all, which means she was in danger. Okay, because we know now we hear that he told her he wants to get married in 6 months or 2 months and have a baby. So who knows? Maybe they said we don't need to use no protection because we're on the road to get married and having babies anyway. So let's just go ahead and raw dog this thing. Let's do it. There you go. So now, not only could she have possibly had been intimate with Tony, possibly been in a situation where could have gotten even pregnant or anything, and she was over here fooling around with Natasha. But then once she even understood all this and knew this, she still couldn't say no to it. She still went back for more. They still was going out and dating and doing all these other kind of stuff. And then eventually they broke up again. But she's over here saying he's the one that needs counseling. He's the monster. He's this. He's got the two personalities. What about you, Morgan? What about you? You look at this whole apology Morgan issued. This would have been the apology she issued on her Instagram was after this sort of reunion. But she talks about that I don't know who that woman was on the screen. That wasn't me. Really, Morgan? Is this not you here again? You already apologized for what you did originally with Natasha. Now, do we have to get another apology? Are you going to tell us once again that this isn't you, that what we was looking at was a whole nother woman? You've had chance to film the whole series, go home, relax, detox from it all. Then you come back on the reunion and you give us more of it. Not only do you give us more of it, you take it up a level. You start spraying bullets on everybody. You spraying bullets on the women. You spraying bullets on Mark Anthony, and you spraying bullets on Tony again. I was afraid for Tony. When Morgan was sitting next to Tony and they were on the couch and Tony had that cummerbund way up here and Tony had that cummerbund way up here, he couldn't even breathe. I was like, Morgan, does she have a skillet in the back of that couch? Does she have a frying pan, some hot grits in the back of that couch? Is she going to lift up a frying pan or a pot full of hot grits and dump it on Tony's head? Because I know she ain't got no nair, but she could have a frying pan with some hot grease or a pot with some hot grits. And is she about to smack Tony with it? I'm telling you, if Tony should have been afraid, he should have been afraid being that close to Morgan and as volatile as she was. I would have got up. I would have been afraid. I would have been afraid that something was going to come from behind my head and a boom. Tony better not close his eyes on Morgan. Tony better not close his eyes on Morgan. But Tony said it right. What Tony said was that he and Morgan never had a chance to build a friendship. So they immediately went to the sex pretty fast. They started having sex really, really fast. And what they both said was they didn't get to build a friendship between, because next thing you know, he was like, this whole relationship is toxic. At least Tony knows the word out. He knows that it's toxic. And I guess at least he's taking some accountability for his part in it, because toxicity needs two people. She's toxic and so is he. But you know what? Morgan was like, don't be calling me toxic. Ain't nothing toxic about me. Girl, you are the poster child for toxic. If there's a billboard on the highway in Florida, the interstate, it's going to say toxicity and Morgan's picture is going to be underneath it. What the hell is she talking about? She's absolutely toxic. She told that man, you better shut your mouth. She told Morgan told Tony, I will destroy you. I'm telling you, this girl, in her words, she said, I will destroy you. Remember back in the early season, she told him, I'll cut you. This time, she said, I will destroy you. I don't know, y'all. I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over. Even after Morgan stormed off the show, here was Tony chasing after her, talking about, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her. I'm like, good Lord, where are all my psychologists, psychiatrists? They need y'all on set. They need y'all on set immediately, because this is a lot of ridiculousness that Tony is chasing after Morgan, talking about, I need to talk to her. She talking about, you should have talked to me 6 weeks ago. What is she talking about? What is she talking about? You know, I don't want to speculate on nothing, but you know what, y'all? I'm putting together some really strange things with this couple. I'm putting together sex very fast. I'm putting together raw, intimate sex. When she said, you put me in danger, I'm putting together that they were doing it even when Natasha was doing it. I'm putting together this craziness of Morgan. I'm putting together this, I needed to talk to you 6 weeks ago, but you didn't talk to me. What was so important to talk to Morgan about or Tony about 6 weeks ago? I don't want to say it, but I think there might have been some oops there. Remember I was telling you about what the soothsayer said to Mercedes, that protect your womb. I wonder if there was some protection of some womb with Morgan. I wonder if there was something she needed to protect her womb with, but I'm not going to continue to speculate on it, because this vengeance she has for him and calling him a monster, and she's saying, you guys just don't know Tony. I wonder if Tony left her side when she needed him the most in a situation in which she needed to talk to him. But I'll let y'all come to your own conclusions, but I'm starting to get some vibes that some real other serious stuff was going on while he was over here knocking boots with Natasha as well. And Natasha was on the show. Did you hear her voice too? Is Natasha's voice like Jeffri's voice? I don't know about Natasha. I mean, I kind of took up for her when Morgan spilled her business. I didn't think that was right. I still don't think it's right. But I'm telling you, if Natasha had stayed on the show longer than she did, I'm not quite sure I would even like Natasha, y'all. I'm going to say it, because there's a few things about Natasha in her exit interview. If you guys didn't watch it, I picked up there, and a few things that she was saying that was coming out her mouth in this reunion that I kind of ignored it because I was like, well, she's not really a big part of it. But some of her comments, to be honest with you, I didn't think that they were appropriate. So I'm really wondering if Natasha had stayed on the show, would I have liked her? And then I also have to assign some of the blame of her even being with Tony to her, which I said on my exit interview about Natasha if you didn't watch it. So I don't know. I wonder if we'll hear any more from her. I think we will, because I think we're going to hear more from Natasha when this whole thing comes out about sleeping with Tony. And then we find out that Tony says that Natasha was the one that told the producers. And I had said that I didn't know who was the one who let Natasha's secret out. And I was saying it very well could have been Natasha, because Natasha was still talking to all the ladies trying to figure out who Tony was with. And I had said that. And now we find out Natasha was the one that spilled her own beans. She told producers. Like I said, we're going to have to hear the whole story. We're going to have to hear the whole story to see if what Tony said was correct, if Natasha denies it. But I'm going to believe Tony a little bit. I'm going to believe a little bit about Tony, that Natasha was the one that spilled the beans, because I think maybe Natasha might have wanted to break up Tony and Morgan because Natasha really wanted Tony. Because like I said, Tony ended up ghosting Natasha in that ex interview. He ghosted Natasha and she was upset. She was mad. She was mad. I wonder if she then ran over to the producers to tell this dirty little secret so she could get back at Tony. Has Tony attracted two ladies who love vindictiveness and vengeance? Tony's toxicity is a magnet. It triggers women who love revenge. I'm not going to say that about Natasha because I don't know that much about her yet. But I'm telling you, her storyline is starting to get a little bit more complicated. And I'm not sure I'm going to continue to have a grace for Natasha. In fact, I pretty much already know I don't have much left. But I'm not going to just say it all outright. I want to hear more of the story. But I could tell in that exit interview, I was like, I was saying that on the exit interview, I don't know. And then on this reunion, she was kind of quipping in the background. I was like, I don't know. And then we heard that little blurb from Tony saying that she's the one that told producers. And I'm like, I'm pretty much almost all the way out the door on her. I'm almost all the way out the door on Natasha. But I'm gonna wait until next week to let y'all know how I really think. But then they had this little part where they were talking about the Lyndon, the Morgan connection, and how Morgan was talking about when she was 30, she would have been with Lyndon. Lyndon wouldn't have been with no Morgan at 30. Morgan would have been worse at 30 than she is now. This is her growth. Imagine what Morgan was like 10 years ago. If this is Morgan, more mature, more grown, can you imagine her at 30? Lyndon would not have had anything to do with Morgan at any age. Any age. When Lyndon sat in front of Morgan and said, I'm not the one you need, she wasn't the one he needed because of that Nair situation. It don't have nothing to do with Tony won. Tony didn't win a doggone thing. Lyndon wised up and said, that Nair in the hair and what I see of Morgan is too much. I'm out. Period. He just didn't want to say it that way. But there was no way cool, calm, collected, funny, outgoing Lyndon would be with Morgan. I don't care how fine, how good looking Morgan is. Lyndon would have never been with Morgan. Not here at 38 and not at 30. Morgan can think that all she wants. Morgan can think all she wants that she has an ability to have been able to be with Lyndon or not. She never would have had a choice. Never in a million years would Lyndon have ever been with Morgan. Maybe to smash and grab, but never would have been no relationship. In fact, I don't even think Lyndon would have smashed and grabbed because he would have been too afraid to close his eyes. All that hair Lyndon got on his head? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Tony tried to reel in Morgan. He tried to reel in her mouth. Remember when Morgan says, I need a man that's going to put me in my place? And Tony was like, yeah, that's me. I know I can put you in your place. You need a man like me. She goes, yeah, I need a man like Tony who can put me in my place. Remember when Morgan said that? Well, there was Tony sitting on that couch trying to put Morgan in her place, saying you're not going to disrespect me. And guess what? He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. The job was too big for him. Here he is, thought he was this big alpha male with all this aggression and assertiveness. And here he was trying to put a Morgan in her place, trying to tell her, you're not going to disrespect me with these words, Morgan. And Morgan told Tony, shut up, I will destroy you. I tell you, men out there, if you ever hear a woman that says, I want a strong, assertive alpha male because that's what I need to handle me, run in the other direction. Because what she's telling you is, I can't control my mouth. I can't control myself. I can't control my temper. I can't control my temperament, any of that. And I need you as a strong, assertive man to do that. A lot of women, they recognize things that are in their lives that they can't control. And then what they do is they want to use the men to control those things about them. Maybe they're bad spenders. They want a man who's going to control their spending. Maybe they got foul mouths. They want an alpha male that tells them to shut up. Right? It's always something about them that they need the man to control. And the next thing you know, they're like, well, you're not man enough for me because I need a more stronger man because I'm so strong myself. I need a man who's going to lord over me. Why don't the women just start controlling themselves? Why don't the women just start learning how to tamper themselves down? And then you have the ability to be with a whole lot of men. These women are limiting themselves on what kind of men they can date because they're so out of control. There's only a few men that can and really want to handle them. And those men, you start to find out, are toxic themselves. Any man that wants to handle a toxic woman who enjoys that, they toxic too. That's why you end up in these toxic relationships. A lot of these strong-headed women talk about, I don't know why I always pick the crazy men. You pick the crazy men because those are the only men that will deal with you. The only man that would deal with you. Just like Jeffri over here. Jeffri wants to say that it's all the man's problem. The problem with Jeffri is a liar in the beginning of relationships. What Jeffri does is Jeffri acts like she's dainty and cool. So she attracts these men who are attracted to that. But she also attracts men who are strong, just like she says. I like a man that's going to run after me. I like a man that's going to chase me. I like a man that's going to run in the streets and protect me. Same thing with Jeffri. Jeffri loves a strong man that's going to come around and protect her and save her. Well, here's the problem. Jeffri got a mouth on her too. She pretends like she doesn't have a mouth on her. She pretends like she's a woman that gets along. But the minute you open up your mouth on Jeffri and tell her what you don't like or want her to do something back, Jeffri is no different than Morgan and everyone else. That's why they're good friends, because Jeffri talks just like Morgan does behind closed doors. But when she's in front of the camera, she uses that cute little, sweet little low voice. But what she does is she lures the men in with her daintiness and submissiveness. But when you get into a fight or disagreement, she comes out just like Morgan. And that's what happened with those baby daddies. She lured them in with the sweetness and the softness. They got in there. They were probably toxic men too. Probably were, Jeffri. You attracted them. You lured them in. They start to push back on you, tell you what you need to do, just like Tony. You're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to talk to me that kind of way. She chimed up. And after a while, them toxic men ran away from her and said, I'm not dealing with you no more because you don't listen. That's Jeffri. That is Jeffri. So when she sits over here and say there are a lot of black men that leave their kids, there are some that leave their kids. There's a lot of basic men who leave their kids. But I'm going to say this. Those fathers might have left their kids, but you know who they were leaving the most? Jeffri. They were leaving Jeffri more than they were leaving their kids. And that's what Anthony should have got to with Jeffri. Anthony should have said, his real question was, what role do you play in it? And what Jeffri was trying to say is, I don't play no role in these men leaving their kids. I don't play no role in it. Well, yes, you do. Because you and your kids are a package deal. You are a package deal. Whether you're going into a relationship with a man, you're a package deal. Or whether or not you're leaving a relationship, you're a package deal. So women can't say I'm a package deal when I'm getting with a man, but then when the man leaves, say, no, it wasn't a package deal. He left his kids. No, just like a man is accepting you and your child, when he's leaving you and your child. See, Jeffri want to act like the father just left the kids. No, that man left her and those kids. But she don't want to act like she got no part in it. No part in it whatsoever. See, this is the problem. People never going to improve out here. You never going to get better when all you do is blame the other party. And that's what Morgan does. Morgan blames Tony or anybody else in the relationship. She blamed that JR or whatever his name was. When she put the nair in the hair, she blamed him. But she never looks at what she does wrong, what she needs, the counseling she needs. Jeffri's the same way. Jeffri blames everybody else but herself. maybe a Morgan and Jeffri need to become a couple. Maybe those two need to become a couple because they sure do a think alike. They think alike. Tony tried to tell Morgan, you missed your blessing, girl. You missed your blessing. She was like, what you talking about? I didn't miss no blessing. You had a diamond in your hand and you threw away a diamond. Girl, I don't know if I'm going to call you a diamond. That's going a little bit too. Is it a diamond? What kind of clarity is it? Is it VS1 or VS2? Is it an SI? No, maybe it's an SI diamond. I know it ain't no VS2. What's the highest diamond? VS2? I don't know. What's the color of the diamond? Girl, no. Blood diamonds from Africa. Because I know somebody gonna have to die up in here to get the diamond like a Morgan. Somebody gonna have to die. Maybe she a blood diamond. That's what I'm gonna say. I guess I'll go with that, Morgan. You a blood diamond. Good Lord. They try to have these little moments with Fabreece. He was like, I'm dialing this in. Fabreece was like, I don't want to have nothing to do with this show no more. He was the curveball. I don't even know where they found Fabreece. They must have been down at some French bakery. They must have been down at a French bakery and somebody was getting a croissant and a cafe au lait. And Fabreece must have been in line and the producer was like, hey, you want to be on this show? And Fabreece was like, yeah, do free croissants come with it? And yeah, free croissants. We're going to have, French chocolates. Come on down. And he's like, okay, I'll come. Fabreece was not interested in being on this show, and he did what he needed to do and say to get off real quick. He got on this show, saw this crop of women. He's like, I ain't interested. He went right off. He talking about 2 weeks after he was on the show, he met a woman. Boy, Fabreece been with that woman. Fabreece was with that woman before he was on this show. He just told that woman, hey, I got a little acting gig I'm going to go to for 2 weeks, but I'll be back home in 2 weeks. Fabreece is a whole lie. Anyway, he was like, I ain't coming for no reunion. I am not coming from no reunion. Give me a Zoom link. Send me the Zoom link. Fabreece ain't interested. And talk about getting booted off. We come to find out that, PPP man Blue, PPP fraudster Blue, ended up being the one why Jonique didn't get to stay on the show. Jonique exposed him and said, you know what? Blue was the one that didn't want me on the show so he could date me off camera. Talk about a scam. Talk about another scam. Come to find out, Blue has been scamming everybody on this show. Z came out, talk about what Kayla knew, the conversations we would be having. She would feel scammed too. Blue has been out here scamming us all. He been out here scamming us with PPP loan fraud with our tax dollars. He done scammed Zonique out of her extra episode on the show because she wouldn't have lasted anyway. But she was saying I could have got at least an extra episode. She got scammed out of an extra episode. Z was like, I was getting scammed over here. Kayla's getting scammed. Who knew that Blue was out here scamming all these people? Who keeping the cat? Who's going to keep the cat while Blue is in jail and them fish? I know Jonique ain't. I know Jonique ain't keeping them cat. And he said he used to like monkeys too. Ooh. I knew something was wrong with Blue in his businesses when he told me he owned a hookah lounge and a liquor store, but he had to shut his hookah lounge down. I knew it was a problem then. I didn't bring it up, but I knew it was a problem then, but I didn't really want to say nothing about it. But who knew it was this bad? Come to find out, according to the report on the commission reviews, he took about $500,000 worth of PPP money, and all he did was spend it on himself. He didn't even really have no employees. He told the government, I got 11 employees I got to pay through COVID. And he took all that money and was over there buying fish food and cat food and going around selling on all these boats he was talking about. Remember he was saying he likes to go fishing every single weekend and selling. Now we know where he got the money from. Good Lord. Good Lord. Who would have known a Blue would end up being the biggest scammer of all? Crooked Blue. Crooked Blue. But Jonique was coming hard at him. But you know what? If I was just watching this this whole reunion and I would have saw Jonique the way she was coming at him, I would have been like, dang, Jonique, you kind of rough, you kind of tough. Which I always say that about Jonique. Jonique is kind of rough and tough. But you know what? I was like, let that dog loose. Jonique was like a pit bull. Let her loose on Blue. Get him, Jonique. Get him, Jonique. I was all for it because he done some dirt out here in these streets. And he deserved to be eaten up by Jonique. He deserved to be eaten up. I'm sorry, Jonique, when I talked about you when you called Blues a salmon a 7 and his broccoli a 3. With all that PPP money, he should have been having a chef over there cooking it in the first place. You mean you tell me you done defraud the government over $500,000 and you over here cooking the salmon yourself? You should have had a private chef up there cooking for Jonique. Get him, Jonique. Get him. I sure hope Kayla didn't let him buy her nothing with that money, because I'm telling you, the government's gonna be coming. They're gonna be coming and confiscating. He better not have bought Kayla no jewelry, no car, no nothing, because I'm telling you, that's all government. That's all property of the government now, Kayla. If he bought you anything, you better go turn it in to the FBI. You better go turn it in, because that's receiving a fraud and money. That's receiving stolen goods. He done stole from the government. You better go turn it in, girl. Go turn it in. And then they talked about the whole thing with Corvaya and the gold digger. And I'm telling you, Corvaya, another one, didn't learn nothing. Corvaya got eaten alive on this show being called the gold digger, and she's materialistic. She had time to think about it, and then she had time to come back on this episode. And when they brought it up again, the whole situation about spoil me, she doubled down on it. I said, good Lord, Corvaya, you ain't learned nothing. First of all, the first lesson she should have learned was that people have different definitions of spoiled. And what Corvaya tried to do was, Corvaya tried to flip the whole conversation around from it being about spoiling her to talking about a generational wealth. She another flipper. What the heck? She done turned this whole route, twists and turns, to be about, well, when I said spoil me, I was talking about that when you achieve things in life and now you have money and you're doctors and lawyers, now it is a privilege to be able to spoil your kids. Well, you didn't say spoil your kids. You didn't go up to Mark Anthony and said, hey, would you want to spoil our kids? You said spoil me. Girl, you weren't that's not what you're talking about. Now you're trying to put a different spin on it. It was never about, and then she said, why wouldn't I want to be with a man who wants to have a financial security? That's not what you said. If you would have said to a man, I want a man with financial security and wherewithal or whatever else, every man would have agreed. Every woman would have agreed. That's not what spoiled means. She done sat on this show and changed the whole definition of the word spoiled. Spoiled means good for nothing, Corvaya. Look it up in Webster's, Wikipedia, whatever, Webster's. You know I'm old. Wikipedia, look it up. Spoiled is a negative word. It ain't a positive word. Spoiled don't mean generational wealth. Spoiled means you ain't good for nothing. Spoiled milk. Think about it. But she done turned the word spoiled into a positive thing about generational wealth. Girl, that ain't the same thing. And then she started to talk about spoiled means someone is not serious about their finances. I said, so first spoiled means generational wealth. Then spoiled means you want to have the ability to provide for your kids. Well, you never said kids, you said you. And then you start saying that means you're not good with finances. Because I say, no, I don't want to spoil you means I'm not good at finances. That might mean I'm good with finances, because spoiling somebody is bad finances. If you spoiling someone and ruining them and giving them things above and beyond that probably aren't worth anything, that's actually a bad finances. Spending thousands of dollars on shoes is bad finances. That don't build you no generational wealth. How is buying expensive $1,000, $2,000 shoes about generational wealth? How is spending money every single week renting a yacht on the water about finances and generational wealth? If you spending all the money, you ain't building no generational wealth because you spending it all in the here and the now. It's so contradictory. It is a contradiction. Maybe this will be another video where I do on no romance without finance, because let me tell you, generational wealth is about spending your money wisely now so that there's wealth available for generations in the future. It's not about making money and spending it now in the here and the now, and spending it every single week on $1,000 shoes and renting yachts every single weekend to go out on the water. This girl, she didn't go back home and think about her plan. She said at the end, she been dating here and there. Nothing has stuck. No wonder. Ain't nothing gonna stick, Corvaya, until you change. Nothing ain't gonna stick. And then she says, she doesn't want to have to get ready. She gonna stay ready so she can be a high value woman. Girl, how are you people? I just can't. I just can't. Another term we need to get rid of. High value man, high value woman. I mean, people throw out these phrases. I need definitions. I'm now getting to the point now where I don't let nobody use no term that I'm not clear on what your definition is. When you use a term now, I'm like, tell me your definition so I could tell you if I agree or not. Because sometimes I say I disagree and come to find out we have different definitions. Sometimes we have the same definition. I don't know. But people need to get rid of these terms. High value man, high value woman, alpha, beta, sigma, whatever these terms are for alpha men, alpha women. Please, let's stop talking about it. But anyway, that's it. I know this video was long, so if you made it to this point, thank you so much for listening to me. And I cannot wait to see part 2. Be sure to watch my videos coming up on romance. Be sure to catch my videos on No Romance Without Finance. And also I'm going to be doing Put a Ring on It. And also I'm going to be watching Love is Blind and getting that up as well. Talk to y'all later. Bye.